City data shows Seattle's homelessness population has increased about 26% from 2022 to 2024 and is an issue Mayor Wilson ran on during her campaign.
So this is the first 50 housing units that are going to be ready tomorrow on Tuesday. And it's far short of the mayor's promised 500 units she said we'd have by now. But, you know, we're a tenth of the way there, I suppose.
Now, new Mayor Katie Wilson stopped by to visit and canceled the sweep after homeless advocate Bruce Drager reached out through the mayor's online contact form.
Over $44 million in negative cash balances and $13 million that can't be accounted for. Those are the findings of a forensic evaluation done by a private firm hired by Seattle and King County to look into the King County Regional Homeless Authority.
Because if you spend 10% of your revenue on private security, that's like an extra sales tax.
Do you know that almost 25 employees have had to use that whistle? They're not safe in downtown Seattle.
That's why Osho Berman was preparing to offer KCRHA multiple apartments.
From North Seattle to South Seattle.
But then he got this email response saying, "We have a number of incentivized units similar to yours and in the same area that we have not been able to rent to our participants. I don't think we can move forward with the incentive at that time."
And no thank you.
53,000 people experienced homelessness in the county in 2020.
Build it and they will come. That is the theme of today's podcast. The title of the report goes, Homelessness in King County continues to grow with 21% increase in unsheltered homelessness since 2020. Aren't we spending hundreds of millions of dollars on this? Yes, we are. What's that doing? Well, we're providing a lot of permanent housing. How's that go? Let's get into it. There is one sentence in this article, and I'm doing this podcast. It's a great breakdown in general of this issue. And what you've got King County Regional Housing Authority is analyzing the numbers from the HUD count, from the PIT count, point in time count. The reason is the numbers don't look good. It's like, ooh, yeah, that's not good. They're giving us hundreds of millions of dollars. And homelessness continues. It grew 21% since 2020. If I had other markets, and you might think, well, Sean, you're only doing this because you live in King County. No, that's not necessarily true. If there were other counties that had these issues, just absolute cluster, you-know-what, with an F, of governance with homelessness, hey, I'd be all over them. Portland's the only other one. San Francisco is working on it. You've got cities like Houston that have absolutely taken the bull by the horn. They don't have these kind of issues. They don't govern this way, and they handle it totally differently. And I'll be doing another podcast on that. But so here you go. Between 2022 and 2024, you got a 26% increase. Between 2024 and 2026, 9% increase. It just keeps going up, right? We're at 18,365 in King County. Almost 20,000 people. Okay, the unsheltered is the green. The green, meaning they're not in a shelter, right? They're homeless and they're out in the woods. They are urban campers. Green should say unauthorized, illegal urban campers. That's what that is. You got 11,000 versus 6,500 sheltered. I don't know how they keep those numbers straight, because identifying the homeless population, exercise in herding little kittens, right? Cats just kind of go where homeless population, same damn thing. No consistent pattern other than they go to where they get the most freebies, where they're not going to get incarcerated for living a lifestyle of stealing from the community and doing outrageous numbers of drugs and basically just being bottom feeders of society. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about some family that just, the dad lost their job, and there is not the scenario over to the homeless camps in Seattle and check those out. You tell me what's going on. They're absolutely just doing a whole bunch of drugs. They're living the lifestyle that they want to be living. Every time they get interviewed and somebody puts a mic in front of their face, like, nobody's offered us house. No. I got a dog. I can't go into shelter. I've got a girlfriend. I want to keep banging her in my tent. Therefore, we're not going to go into the shelter because they put the men in one and the women in the other. And it's what we're doing. King County Regional Homeless Authority released a high-level summary of its biennial point-in-time count, the PIT count, of the county's homeless population. The King County Regional Housing Authority time to add more context, the numbers, in response to concerns much like doom and gloom. This isn't going to look good. We need to come up with some reasoning as to why the numbers are just going to the moon. Yeah, gloom and doom. Oh, this isn't good. We've had leadership that has basically their head, their ass. I mean, way up there. Just terrible leadership. You've got a continual rotation of people that have no business running a popsicle stand, let alone running a massive regional housing authority. On a regional housing authority applies statistical sampling methods to interviews. Think about that. Statistical sampling methods to interviews rather than doing a true one-night count. The report includes a housing and shelter inventory, which uses data from the county's homeless management information system to determine the number of shelter beds and housing units in the system. Unlike most other jurisdictions, King County Regional Housing Authority does its estimate every 2 years rather than annually. You know what? You just need to disband this bastard of a program. Get rid of it. Everything about King County Regional Housing Authority just screams out, we're wasting taxpayers' money and we don't really know what we're doing and we're completely incompetent, hire incompetent people that don't really know how to get anything done. And so we're just going to be a failure. Need to cut that off. Just need to, like Spencer Pratt said, need to disengage. Need to disengage. Disengage from the homeless population. Then everybody goes to Seattle. What he's talking about is when funding is taken out from the homeless population, they'll go, because everybody knows Seattle will support you if you're homeless and you want to steal from the community and do a massive amount of drugs. Live that debaucherous lifestyle. We're okay with it. We're just like, it's okay. As long as their civil rights aren't being violated. Here, King County Regional Housing Authority estimated there are 18,365 people homeless, 11,829 unsheltered. And that's up a bunch. We looked at those numbers. Report found the inflow into homelessness continues to outpace exits. Got more people coming in than leaving. That's the bottom line. People coming in to outpace the exits. People are becoming newly homeless or returning to homelessness are getting and staying housed. There is no incentive for them to get sober and stay in housing where, they don't have the opportunity to, do the massive amounts of drugs that they can out on the streets. There's zero incentive for them to do that. And a large portion of the folks who are homeless in King County already do have housing. They just don't stay there. You see that time and time and time again. And it's because they like to use it like a hotel. Well, every now and then, let's go and get a shower. Now and then, let's go cook a meal in our housing, right? And they can kind of stay within that whole homeless industrial complex system. And why wouldn't you? If you've got leadership like you do in King County and Seattle that just basically kowtows to every need from the homeless, instead of, hey, you know what? We're going to give you housing, but detox. We need you to get some mental help because you're whacked out of your GD mind. But we don't do that. No. What we do is say, here's your keys. Enjoy. Do all those drugs in your, single room occupancy, little tiny hut. Specifically, according to the report, around 17,000 people exit the county's homelessness system, 18,000 into it. Build it and they will come. And that's what you got. And they're still coming. They're coming to the point where no matter how you take your statistical analysis of how many beds you got, and then you tweak it with interviews and you do a song and dance to it. There's more people coming. That's the bottom line. More people coming. King County Regional Housing Authority changed the way it counts the Hispanic Latino population. Got a spike in Latino numbers. Oh, reduction in the number of white people. I mean, that's got to be good for Fed dollars, doesn't it? The author asked, we've asked what accounts for the change. Good question. 24% of people living homeless in King County identify as Latino. Same percentage identify as Black. So Black and Latino, you got half of the homeless people, compared to less than 16% in 2024. Every non-white racial group was overrepresented among the homeless population. Why is that? And you know what? That doesn't surprise me at all. These homeless encampments, oftentimes it is a hodgepodge of folks in the BIPOC community, right? Wildly overrepresented. They've dropped out. And so they're basically in this endless circle, and nobody's really helping them to get out. Because in order to do so, they need to get sober. They need to detox. You get some mental health care. But we're not really set up to do all that. People do that. What about, let's do a mandatory 90-day stay dry out clinic. What about that? I mean, just something, anything. What about consistency? You talk to so many of these folks, you hear interviews of so many of these folks, there's nobody reaching out to them. They just do whatever they want. And the homeless industrial complex is okay with that because those people stay homeless. You get more dollars that way. Pretty basic stuff, right? Native indigenous people who make up 0.4% of the population, but 4.2% of all unhoused people in the county. Hey, we need more white homeless people. Where's Whitey? Why isn't Whitey overrepresented here? Question. We got number of beds decline, disproportionate reduction in family shelter beds, number of permanent supportive housing units, permanently affordable apartments for people increased by 155 last year because that's where you get your most money for. You get your most dollars. Housing continually here. We just had more housing. We'd be able to solve the problem. Most people claiming that they lived these structures we've built for them, these little tiny homes, these little Home Depot sheds that we call homes, where they go in there and just shoot themselves to kablooks. I mean, we've seen that time and time and time again, right? Release from King County Regional Housing Authority characterized the growth in homelessness. This is the reason I'm reading this article. I mean, it's my favorite part. Characterize the growth in homelessness. Homelessness is spiking, and this is how they characterized it. The growth in homelessness is a slowdown in the rate of increase. Sorry, what? Growth in homelessness as a slowdown. This is good stuff. A 26% spike between 2022 and 2020. So the increase has slowed. Get what I'm saying? 9% between 24 and 26. Oh. And how many 100 million did we spend? Oh. However, as noted above, the increase in people living unsheltered on the street and the overall number of people experiencing homelessness. The books are cooked on all of this, folks. The books are cooked. Look out on the streets of Seattle and you tell me if it's getting better. You tell me if Dr. Jose Rizal Park is getting better. You tell me if Lewis Park next door to that park is getting better. You tell me, laugh. It's not funny, but I'm like, that's what happens. The World Cup came and they pushed all these encampments. It's whack-a-mole. I mean, that just happens, right? That is what goes on. These people do not disappear. Homeless people don't just, gone. We sent them to the moon. I was reading about Atlanta, that they handled their homeless problem back in 96. Was it World Cup? I think it was their World Cup. They absolutely arrested their way out of it. Just incarcerated these people, put them on buses and said, go anywhere but Atlanta. And they cleaned it up that way. But they also got kind of a black eye for doing that, right? It's not racism. You've got leadership that basically allows this to happen. There's no way we're going to clean this up with existing leadership the way that it is. Not going to happen because you got the blind leading the blind. Nobody's going to take a stand and nobody's going to draw a line in the sand and say, can't do this, can't do this. It's, hey, let's order another study. Yeah, those people are underprivileged and we don't want to see them, being impacted by their life decisions. Just a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Build it and they will come. And that is what you have, bottom line. And until you get, a community, you get voting constituency that does something different, you're going to be forced to just deal with this long term, which is what is happening and what will happen. Because you don't have leadership that really wants to do anything about it. You're just like, it's decreasing, increasing, decreasing. Just a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Bottom line is, you got a whole bunch of people in King County living where they shouldn't be, urban camping where they shouldn't be. And providing housing isn't going to do it. You got to get them off the dope, right? We're not willing to do that because, it might be a violation of their civil rights and voluntarily commit them into treatment or mental health care. Oh, we can't do that. That's horrific. That's what Nazis did. Well, you got other cities that are doing it. Not Seattle. No. King County, absolutely mentally hosed. Not going to turn it around for a long time. Oh, well. You can't have it all, right? Can't have it all. And when they actually do something of, positive note, I'll podcast it for you. But thanks so much for being here. Love to have you subscribe. Hit that notification bell.